Hi Ben, obviously welcome to our conversation. My name's Chris from Storm Fitness. We're talking to Ben Coomber today. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, Ben?
I'm a performance nutritionist, coach, present all around the country on nutrition and performance. I run an online nutrition academy for personal trainers to try and bulletproof their nutrition knowledge over the course of a 12-month period. My online nutrition coaching company is Body Type Nutrition, which has been around for about 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, that's about the size of it.
Cool. Obviously, we most of our fans will be aware of your work, but we've really enjoyed listening to your podcasts in particular. They're a great source of information. I guess what I'd like to know first of all is tell us a bit about your journey, about how you're here, where you are today, what your background, how you reached it, because we probably have people who might aspire to be sort of the next Ben Coomber. So, how did you get here?
Yeah, so I mean, anyone else who wants to read a little bit more about what I'm about to say, if you log on to bodytypenutrition.co.uk, on the blog there, I've written this up. After I did a review of sort of 2013. So I got into the fitness industry when I was 18. Well, about 19, 20. When I was 18, I was obese. Couldn't work out why. I ran 4 or 5 times a week. I did what we were told to eat. I was eating whole grains, all this stuff that the government tells us to do. Nothing was working. I'd lost like 5 pounds in 5 months.
Yeah.
It was getting really depressing. Had an argument with my brother, because I was teasing him. He said, I bet you can't lose 2 stone in 2 months. So I knew something had to change. I didn't have the skills to do what he kind of requested me. So, cut a long story short, I joined a new gym. I fell into the hands of a good trainer who knew what he was talking about. He said, look, read this book, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. Start doing some weight training, knock a lot of the cardio on the head, find out if you're intolerant to various different foods and stuff. And then I lost 2 stone in 2 months. I lost another 2 stone. At the time I was training to be an actor. I had a place at Birmingham School of Acting. That was my career choice. And then this whole journey of like getting really healthy, losing all the weight, and so quickly and fast as well, inspired me to learn more about nutrition. And luckily I had a little nest egg for my family. And I fast-tracked my knowledge. I went on all these nutrition courses, travelled to California, Scandinavia, various different places, learning off some really cool people. And I've never looked back ever since. Nutrition is my thing.
Awesome. I think from what you've just said, Ben, you're a prime example of investing in yourself and in your education. We're big fans of that. Obviously expanding knowledge with regards to nutrition and looking to see what people's thought processes are on the whole nutrition and their take on things. So it's good to see someone who's obviously doing that. Fair play to you. I guess one of the main questions I'd like to ask Ben. You talk a lot on your podcasts about sort of branched chain amino acids and sort of leucine in particular, and leucine supplementation. From a muscle building point of view and a fat loss point of view, would you like to just expand a little bit on why leucine is so important?
Well, leucine has the potential on its own to single-handedly stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So that means you're going to turn over protein in a positive way rather than negatively, and you're going to maximally stimulate what you can physiologically from an anabolic perspective. And regardless of whether you're losing weight or trying to gain weight, you want to try and be as anabolic as possible, because it means you're not breaking down tissue for fuel.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that if you're not eating leucine-rich foods, the catabolic monster isn't going to get you and eat your biceps.
Yeah.
It's just a case that you could be doing more to maximally stimulate the results that you want to get. So, for example, we'll take mass gain as an example. You want to maximally stimulate leucine oxidation and muscle protein synthesis as often as you can, and the research should indicate that is around 4.5 hours ish. So we could hypothesize that the key meal feeding frequency would be about 4 hours with leucine rich foods.
Yeah.
Now, not all foods are leucine rich. So it might pay to supplement on top with leucine powder or tablets to try and get this bang for buck environment. So, you know, a counter argument from someone might be that, well, if you just ate chicken for 5 meals a day every 4 hours at 280 grams, you would get 4.5 grams of leucine. I don't want to eat chicken at every meal. I enjoy my food. I really enjoy my food. Like we were talking about pork the other day, and pork is notoriously low in leucine, but I love pork. There's no way I'm going to discount eating bacon, sausages, pork chops, pork belly just because it's low in leucine. I'll eat a pork meal, then 1 to 2 hours later I'll have a dose of leucine, because I'm trying to maximally stimulate my performance as an individual from a body composition perspective.
Cool. I think basically, in short, what you're trying to say is it's, you know, it's sometimes transferring the theory across to reality. You know, in with your clients in particular, not all of them are going to have the opportunity to sit down 5 times a day and eat a well balanced, high leucine meal, are they? So this is when the supplementation comes into play.
Precisely. There's so few people that can stick to a 5 to 6 meal a day meal frequency, and that's why I'm so I take almost a little bit of sadistic pleasure in telling people or educating people that, you know, we've believed this for so many years, but it's not really true. We can get away with eating a lot less, and it's probably a lot more beneficial from a lifestyle perspective to make things more manageable. So if I can have a meal, breakfast, and then 2 hours later have some leucine and, you know, bag a potentially anabolically favourable environment all day, then I'm going to do that. For me, it's a no-brainer. There's a lot of supplements we can waste our money on, and I don't think leucine is one of them, personally. Good.
All right, well, it's basically everyone get out and buy some leucine. That's the message.
Awesome crack.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Don't do that, kids.
We need to put in a disclaimer there. Cool. All right, Ben. I'd like to talk a bit about metabolic damage now. It seems to be a bit of a buzzword at the minute, or from what I can see in people's blogs and things, but it's something that I think as a trainer, until a few months ago, I didn't really know the terminology, but I think you're always kind of aware of people who are affected by things like metabolic damage. Like, you'll see them in gyms, they'll train excessive amounts and you won't see them eating very much, and you can tell that it's not a very healthy environment for their body from a hormonal point of view. So could you just tell us a bit more about metabolic damage and what we can do as trainers to kind of help people who have suffered or are being affected by it, to kind of help them reach their goals, please?
Yeah, so the easiest way to probably blanket describe metabolic damage is a down-regulation of fundamental hormonal pathways in the body. So down-regulation of thyroid is probably the key talking point in metabolic damage, so that you're going to down-regulate the thyroid gland's ability to produce thyroid hormones to a point where your metabolism or your metabolic rate is going to decrease. And most of the time people do that through a high exercise output and a low calorie intake. So for, you know, a period of time, the thyroid gland is working really, really hard to pick up the slack, because you're forcing your metabolic rate to decrease all the time, through a lowered metabolic rate, and if you're eating low carb, you're going to decrease your metabolic rate over time as well. So it's kind of the perspective of burning the wick at both ends, and that's why we definitely need to take more of an intelligent approach to our programming with clients, especially with people that have, you know, yo-yo dieted. It's a classic thing. So the probably easiest and most extreme example to describe this with is a competitive bodybuilder. You know, they'll aggressively bulk in season, then when they're prepping. The exercise goes right up, calories go right down, they're throwing everything at it, the kitchen sink, fat burners, it's all going in there. And it's aggressive, and the hormones hate it. How do you get yourself out of it? Well, you need to take a very moderate approach to exercise. I probably wouldn't recommend more than 3, maybe 4 hours of decent training a week. And then you need to find a calorie ceiling. So you need to find, you know, we could plug their details into MyFitnessPal or a calorie calculator and find out where they should be. But you don't know where their metabolism is. So you might go, right, I think this person's around 2,000, so I'm just going to start at 1,800. Cool.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're probably no adverse effects and stuff. I probably want to find the point at which they gain weight, or they feel that their recovery is optimal, their sleep is optimal, they're energized. So you might find that that is only at 1,800 calories because their rate is so low. So low.
Yeah.
You need to find that ceiling. So I take them up to the ceiling, I nourish them, I make sure the food's really good, and then I'll probably say to them, we need to stay here for a while. And I look at all the basic anecdotal biomarkers that they will have. So how are you sleeping? How are you recovering from exercise?
Yeah.
If I got that person to do an extra 2 high-intensity training sessions a week, would it beat them up?
Yeah.
These are all indications that these people just aren't ready to up things. And you might find that it takes quite a long time to restore that balance. You might find that you need to throw in some hormonal glandulars, adrenal or thyroid extract. But, you know, it's a very prevalent issue, especially in women.
Yeah.
Women have yo-yo dieted tons over the years, and they've just screwed up their metabolisms.
Yeah.
And I deal with, you know, people that want to compete in competitive bodybuilding, and they'll come to me and they've already been in the sport 6 or 7 years, and I said, I can't help you this year, but I can help you next year.
Yeah.
I said, because your body's literally, it's broken, we need to fix everything before I can. I said, if I dieted you down now, I might damage you long term. From an ethical point of view, I won't do that. Go and find a crap trainer that will do that, and there's plenty that will.
Yeah, I think just on touch on the female clients as well, Ben. Irregular periods, I believe, is also a sign of metabolic damage, isn't it? Or no period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Libido. Libido is probably the easiest one, and no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Or people's ability to conceive. You know, if you're not feeling virile, you're not waking up with a boner from men.
Yeah.
You know, if women don't feel horny, because a lot of the time women don't mention it. They almost feel that they shouldn't. We should feel horny a fair amount of the time. That's what we do. That's inherently the beast that humans are.
Yeah.
So that's a telltale sign straight away. You're right.
Cool. Just a bit more about sort of macronutrients now, Ben, and also the role that fibre plays in fat loss. I think for me anyway, looking at a lot of my clients' food diaries, it often seems there's very light on the fibre, and I think people often focus too much on proteins and fats or proteins and carbs. In your opinion, how important is fibre in diet?
I think it's hugely important because, well, we know from the research it creates a healthy colon. That's the given. We know from the research that it will create a greater amount of satiety, and we know that a lot of people struggle with kind of feeling full and having good energy and slowing down that blood sugar level release. So a lot of people, or a lot of practitioners that have got on the whole low carb bandwagon or meat and nut breakfast, whatever it is, there's no reason why you can't absolutely ram someone's diet with fibre but still keep it very low carb.
Yeah.
I can get someone to eat a massive bowl of spillage and the carb content to be literally minimal, but the fibre content is rammed. Micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, it's all there. So I think it's hugely underrated. I tell people that in some capacity, vegetables should be half of your plate.
Yeah.
Even if you're going very protein and fat heavy, you just change the type of carb that you eat. And it's probably the key variable I use with a lot of people. You just change the type of carb and the amount of carb, and fats a lot of the time, as a generalisation, will yo-yo alongside what you're doing with the carbohydrates.
Yeah, I think I often get, if I put someone on a high protein diet, normally one of the first comments I'll get in about a week or so's time will be, oh, you know, my digestion's slowed down. And then my first question is obviously, well, are you eating the right amount of fibre? Because obviously that shouldn't be happening, should it? If you're getting someone on a higher protein diet.
No, but a lot of people will complain with digestive issues or maybe changes in stool consistency. And I think I never read into it in the first 1 to 3 weeks, because I find the gut is very unpredictable.
Yeah.
When you change the diet regime, and you're basically just going to get changes.
Yeah.
Whether it's negative or positive. So I say to people, right, okay, you're constipated, that's fine, not a problem. I'll be concerned if you're constipated in 10 days' time.
Right. Oh, cool.
So I always give it a little bit of time, because I think there's a little bit of colonic adjustment to be made.
All right, cool. That's sometimes, yeah, I might have in the past I've had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to say, oh well, only the first 5 days, but that's good information to sort of leave it that bit longer.
You might be right though, in terms of people eating too much fibre, but it's definitely something to bear in mind.
Great. Oh, thanks for that, Ben. Cool. So another hot topic on your blogs and podcasts is carb backloading. Obviously, I'd just like to know sort of when would be the most appropriate time to use it with someone if they were trying to build a bit of muscle.
Yeah, so the reason why I've been such a fan of it, or the theory behind it, is that there are certain body types that respond favourably to certain diet templates as generalisations: ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. And the endomorph is the hardest person a lot of the time to optimise physiologically, probably from a fat loss perspective, but also from a lean muscle gain perspective. We can pile muscle on them, but sometimes it comes along with a load of fat.
Yeah.
Now we know that the endomorph, or for me, is very, you need to control insulin as much as possible. It needs to be the key driving hormone for that person. So the carb backloading template obviously works on this premise that we're going to control insulin as much as we can throughout the day. We're still going to try and get some fat metabolism or fat turnover in the first part of the day by eating our fuel source primarily from fats and proteins, obviously still getting veggies in there with the fibre and stuff. And then if we train in the PM, we create a hormonally beneficial environment for several reasons. You're insulin sensitive from training, we're resistant in terms of the fat tissue, you've upregulated GLUT4 transport proteins, you've created basically a window of opportunity where I find you can aggressively bring more carbohydrates into the post-workout window, which will then feed more favourably into growth hormone as blood sugar level drops before bed, on the premise that you use simple carbohydrates as your refeeding fuel source. And I think it creates more bang for buck than if that person trained in, let's say, at 11 o'clock in the morning. My other premise with the carb backloading theory and the kind of the endomorph, or maybe even the mesomorph, is that if someone was AM training, I would always get them to train fasted.
Right.
Because you're going to get them in a high growth hormone environment because they're training fasted. You're also going to tap into fat metabolism because you're training fasted. And with that endomorph, you always need a happy kind of balance of fat turnover, muscle building. And you know, for people to say that, well, you can't burn fat and build muscle at the same time, well, you can and you can't. Like, there's always changes in bioenergetics in the body on a daily process. Like, we wake up in the morning and are burning fat for fuel primarily, depending on then what we eat for breakfast. So in theory, you can influence what we were going to burn as a fuel source for the next 12 hours, depending on what you eat. But I can then make my body anabolic in a PM period by a different type of refeed and a workout. So in theory, you can burn muscle and, you can build fat, burn fat, build muscle. You've just got to be a bit more clever about it and think about the physiology of the body and how you can optimize your hormones and your body type and kind of daily energy expenditure.
That's the key, really, isn't it? Sort of knowing your body type, structuring your training around when your body's going to react best to certain stresses, and then loading it up on the right nutrients at the right times, isn't it? That's the key, I guess.
Yeah, sure. We can make as much blanket statements as we want, but a lot of the time a answer to a question in nutrition is it depends. What are we contextualizing? Give me the variables.
Yeah, I guess interesting point you made there, Ben, just on the carb backloading, was that it's not as suitable for ectomorphs as the endos or mesos.
No, ectomorphs, they tend to handle a lot more carbohydrates throughout the day. They're very thyroid driven, so you don't want to have any risk of suppressing thyroid function through a lack of carbohydrates. They tend to really need any calories they can get anyway. So a lot of the time it's kind of a throw food at the situation approach with an ectomorph.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm probably what you describe as a classic ectomorph, and I've been following probably more of a carb backloading program for the last couple of months and haven't necessarily noticed the reaction that I would have liked. So I've recently just started going on to more regular carbs throughout the day. So we'll see how that one turns out.
Nice.
Okay, Ben, so we're just about to wrap it up. I've just got one more question, if you don't mind. What would you say for fat loss are the must-have supplements? We've already touched on leucine being a kind of must-have, but is there anything else, assuming that someone's diet is in the right state? Because obviously you'd want to prioritise that first before loading people up on loads of supplements. But
yeah, sure. Fish oil is a definite. Some people like crazy high doses of fish oil. I find it quite impractical for a lot of people. I find that for general daily maintenance I hit about 3 grams. For fat loss, depending on their level of adiposity, between 5 and 8 grams. For a lot of people, I think the quality is important though. I would only recommend the best quality. I tend to get mine from Nutri or Element Nutrition or Pure Pharma, probably my top choices. So fish oil, 100%. Then vitamin D, purely from a perspective of well-being. I want the person I'm dealing with to be in the best possible health, and that is good for weight loss. I then might, if someone is a bit more flexible with their income, there may be like a greens or a superfood drink, purely from a detox and a nutritional bang for buck perspective. Like this drink might only have 80 calories, but it's flooding the body with vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, and that's only beneficial in my opinion. If someone's had issues with the gut in any way, or gluten intolerant, wheat intolerant, throw a probiotic in there. I want their gut absorbing the food that they're actually eating. So that's very important. And then green tea. I get people drinking 3 to 4 cups of green tea a day before 4 p.m. That's a real important killer question, or killer point.
So you wouldn't have them drinking them after 4, Ben?
No, because the caffeine content is still a thermogenic, so it's going to heighten physiology on several levels. And when it comes to sleep, I want people going into the best sleep possible.
Any magnesium in there?
And then possibly, depending on the person and their type of training, some kind of magnesium, just to keep on top of their recovery, because if they're recovering better, they're feeling better, less influence or damage on their hormones and muscle tissue, and they're feeling fresher for when they train the next time. So in isolation, you might say, no, I don't think magnesium's important, but in terms of the long picture, over like a monthly mesocycle, you would see its value.
Cool. All right, Ben, thanks very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Pleasure.
Do you want to tell us about what the next few months holds for Ben Coomber?
I've got about 20 seminars booked up for the next 5 months, so I'm all over the country, Leicester, Birmingham, Newcastle, with you guys I think in June or July, Scotland. All these seminars are on my Facebook page or my Body Type Nutrition page, so if people want to get on board, then go for it. Lots lined up with the podcast. I've just brought on another coach full-time with Body Type Nutrition, which is very exciting. I've got a huge project that should turn sports nutrition on its head in the industry very soon.
Excellent.
But that is top secret. And then just keep developing. Myself personally, as soon as we finish this call at 3 o'clock, I'm doing some further development myself on a Skype call about hormonal testing and blood work. So for me, plenty of learning, plenty of expanding my business, plenty of public speaking, plenty of helping people.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Ben. We look forward to seeing you at Storm Fitness in the near future. And thanks for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.